Hello! Welcome to KidTime. Today is May 3rd, 2020. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Liz, and I am the Director of Children's Ministries here at Our Redeemer's Lutheran Church. So you'll notice that I'm outside today because it's such a beautiful day. I just could not resist, and I feel like what a better way to celebrate new life in spring than being outside. So today you are going to need the following materials for our KidTime lesson. So you'll need the Early Believers worksheet and stickers, crayons, markers, or colored pencils. You just need one of those, and then a pencil or a pen. Pretty simple today. Okay, and let me show you what that worksheet looks like in case you're looking through ones you have. Okay, so here's the worksheet. Sorry, it's a tiny bit windy. And then here are the stickers that you'll need for today. Wonderful. Now, if you don't have a worksheet with you there at home, right below this video on the Our Redeemer's Live page, you will find a link so that you can download the worksheet, and then you can open it up and print it for yourself. Unfortunately, with that method, you won't get stickers, but you can always draw the pictures instead of using stickers. Alrighty. Okie dokie, friends, let's get started. Okay. All right, guys. So here's some pictures. Are these familiar to you? Do they seem familiar? Yeah, I would think they would seem familiar to you. So these are all things that people need to live by. So we have food, shelter, clothing, and money. All things that we need to live. Back in Bible times, if you can believe this, they needed these same things to live. They needed food, clothing, money, and shelter. They needed all of those things to live. So we're going to hear about sharing in this story. Sharing some of these things. Alrighty. Oh, and before we read our story, we need to welcome everybody. So we're going to start with that. Alrighty. So, if you've heard the song before, you can sing it with me the first time, I bet. If you haven't, then you can sing it the second time. Alrighty, here we go. So I'll use my name the first time, and I'll use my name the second time as well. But the second time around, put your name into the song. Here we go. Liz is here. Liz is here. Clap your hands and give a cheer. Liz is in God's house today. Hooray, 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 hooray. Alrighty, now it's your turn. Here we go. Liz is here. Liz is here. Clap your hands and give a cheer. Liz is in God's house today. Hooray, 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 hooray. Wonderful job. Alrighty, now let's read about some of those people in the early times in the Bible. And this story is called Early Believers. Some of the early believers were great at sharing. They shared their food and their clothes. They shared their money and their homes. Oh, we just heard about all those things. Food, clothes, money, homes. They were so generous. No one was poor or needy because others gave without holding anything back. Together they saw many miracles and wonders. They met in the temple and they met in their homes. They talked about Jesus and they thanked God for blessing them. Then something amazing happened. When other people saw how happy these first believers were, sharing all they had and talking about Jesus, they believed too. They became Christians and they shared their food and their clothes, their money and their homes. They shared their food, clothes, money, and homes. Wow, that's amazing. They became one big Christian family, and their church family grew and grew and grew. Alrighty, that's it for our story for today. Wow. Pretty amazing how much they were sharing those materials, those things that they need all of the time. So, who was the story about today? Yeah, that's right. It was about the early believers in the Bible, the early Christians, the first Christians that ever existed. And what did they do? That's right. I'm sure some of you are saying they shared their belongings and the things that they needed the most. And they shared them with other Christians. And then those other Christians realized, wow, this is a pretty neat faith if they're willing to share all of that stuff. And so what did they share? What type of things did they share? Think back to that picture I showed you at the beginning. Right? They shared food, they shared clothing, they shared shelter, and they shared money, right? Yeah, pretty cool. What happened when other people saw what they were doing? That was a harder one. What happened? See if any of you get it. That's right. They became Christians, and they then shared as well. What was it that grew and grew in the end of our story? What grew and grew? Might need to look back. What grew and grew? Do you remember? Okay, so it says, and their church family grew and grew and grew. So is their church family, the people that they spend time with at church, the other Christians. All right, we're going to kind of do a little bit of we'll call it a chant, a story chant. Are you ready for this? I think so. Okay, so I want you to repeat after me, and this is just going to kind of be a little review of our story from today. Alrighty, here we go. Hungry, hungry, cold, cold. Okay, your turn. Hungry, hungry, cold, cold. So why am I doing this? Any ideas? We have questions. Okay. Let's move on. Clothes are torn. Clothes are torn. Need to buy some bread or corn. Need to buy some bread or corn. The early believers in Jesus cared. The early believers in Jesus cared. Food, clothes, and everything else they shared. Food, clothes, and everything else they shared. Good job, guys. Kind of a fun little chant that we did. All right, I want you guys to get out your worksheets. It's time for some fun. So you'll need your worksheet and your stickers right now. And we'll be on the very front page of your worksheet. Okay. So I want you guys to look at, what do you see on this page? What do you see? Okay. Yeah, you see this one picture lots of times, right? In fact, there's 5 of them, and it's a group of people, and we'll call those the early believers, okay? So those are the early believers. And then there's some words, and for those who aren't readers, I bet those words look pretty big. So this first one says the, remember we're going to say this says early believers shared. Okay, so the early believers shared. The early believers shared. Oh my gosh, it's over and over and over and over, right? And then you have our little sticker spots. Okay. So this is called, this little story that we just saw, it's actually called, it's a story. And it's called a rebus story. So when we finish it, we can read it to tell the story of the early believers and what they did. So these little pictures of people, those represent what? What was it that I said? Think. That's right. That represents the early believers. The early believers, excuse me. Okay, let's look at our stickers now. Everyone get out your stickers. What do they show? Okay, so we have a picture of food, money, clothing, and shelter. Is that familiar to anybody? Food, clothing, money, and shelter. Yeah, we talked about those in the beginning. Those are things that the early believers shared, things that everybody needs to live and survive. All right, so we're going to put these stickers into our story, and I think you're going to know exactly where we're going to put them. We're going to put them all right before the periods on your story. So if you don't have stickers, this is a great opportunity for you to draw your own beautiful, wonderful pictures. All right, so let's take this first picture of food. Pull it off, and you can put that in your first little circle, like that, right there. Okay, this next one, we're gonna need to find a sticker that's a rectangle shape. Did you guys see a sticker that was a rectangle shape? Yeah, it's right here. So go ahead and pull off that one. That's your shelter picture. Okay. There's your shelter picture. All right, and then the next one I'm gonna choose to do is clothing. I'm gonna put that one right below. Right there, okay. And then the last one is money. Okay, and I added that one right below that. Okay, so now we have a story to read, right? Now we have a story to read, but wait, we have an empty box. So right now, what I want you to do is pause the video, and I want you to draw something else that the early believers could have shared, okay? I chose books, all right? I already did my drawing. So pause the video and draw something else that the early believers could have shared. And then we'll come back together and we'll read our story together. All right. Okay, let's read it. The early believers shared food. The early believers shared shelter, or homes, right? The early believers shared clothing. The early believers shared money. The early believers shared books. Very good. And I'm sure you guys all had a lot of other ideas other than books. You could have done, there's so many options. You could have done something like blankets or firewood or water or jars or any of those other little things that fall under the category of food, clothing, shelter, or money. There we go. Okay, alrighty. So what happened after those early believers shared? Did someone else do something? Did someone else do something? Do you remember in our story? Yeah, other people joined them. They decided, hey, I want to be a part of this church family. It's a pretty cool group to be a part of. All right, what do you guys think it would have been like to live then? What do you think it would have been like to live all the way back then with the early believers? Yeah, pretty neat, I would think. Pretty cool knowing that there's all these people that are going to share and take care of you. Yeah. Do you think that we have that today? Do you think our church shares and takes care of each other? Yeah, and that, I think that we definitely do. Our church does a lot to take care of each other and share the things that we have. We're going to talk a little bit more about that right now, actually. So I want you to flip over to my church family. We heard this phrase, my church family, in our story today. My church family. So what grew and grew in the story that we read today? Let's see if some of you remember. That's right, the church family grew. So did you know we have a church family too at our Redeemers? We absolutely do. Our church family is the people that we worship and learn with. So right now, our church family is a little different, isn't it? Because the people that we worship and learn with aren't right with us because we're currently, staying at home and being safe. So our church family has a new definition. It's people that we are maybe in connection with during this time. Maybe when we watch videos, like you watching this video, I'm a part of your church family. Or when you watch, or you and your parents watch the Sunday worship video, Pastor Arnie and Pastor Kendra are part of your church family. But all of those other people that are watching the worship videos, they're also a part of your church family. So it has a little bit of a different definition nowadays because we're not inside of a church, but we are still worshiping together. Right now I want you guys to name some of the people that you know of in our church family. So I want you to say those names right now. Okay. I'm sure you guys had lots of great answers. What do you enjoy doing with your church family? So think about when we're at church and we're going to Sunday school and KidTime. What do you enjoy doing with your church family? I bet some of you might say something like eating cookies or drinking juice, or maybe watching movies for Sunday school, or maybe just coming to KidTime and reading the story with a small group of other kids. There's a lot of great things that we do. I see some people worshiping at church in our picture here today. Do you guys see that? Yeah. I want you to raise your hand if you like to worship at church. Do you like going to church to be with others? Okay. So if you put your hand up, I want you to draw a line around that picture. So circle your picture if you like to worship at church. We love to worship with our church family. We really do. All right, so I'm going to put a circle around that one. Because I like worshiping with my church family, for sure. Alrighty. What other pictures are there? Let's see. I see two girls reading a Bible. Raise your hand if you read your Bible with your church family. Do you read a Bible with your church family? Maybe you don't sit down like this with your Bible, but maybe I'll give you an example. So maybe during Sunday school, when I read a story to the group, I'm reading from the Bible. Is that something that you enjoy? Or during the worship service, when the pastors or other people from the church community go up and they're reading stories from the Bible. Is that something you really enjoy doing with your church family? So if so, raise your hand right now. I definitely enjoy reading from the Bible. I find it very interesting and a lot of fun. I always learn so much, even now that I'm an adult. Okay, so let's see. Now I see a picture of church families who love sharing meals. Oh man, I think this is gonna be a hit. So if you love sharing meals with your church family, like a church picnic or a church barbecue, or when we have a church potluck, or when we've had maybe just coffee hour when there's cookies and juice out. Do you enjoy doing that with your church family? That's an easy one, I think. I definitely do. I love eating with my church family. Alrighty. And then our last picture is money. Okay? So our church families support each other by giving to the church. Offerings don't have to be money though, right? But they can be. Sometimes offerings, or like when we have our offering during Sunday school, for some of you who go to Sunday school, we can offer our talent or our time, right? So raise your hand if you like to give things, if you like to give to the church in some way. Not necessarily money, but it could be money, it could be maybe giving soap when you bring in soap, or a towel. Some of you brought in towels, or any of those type of things. Maybe you bring in food for the hungry. How could you not enjoy doing that with your church family? So I circled that last one. Okay. So what does our church family do to worship right now? I want you to think about that. How are we worshiping right now as a church family? How are we worshiping right now as a church family? Yeah, so it's a little different right now, isn't it? Our church family's spread out. But a way that we're worshiping is by watching these videos and staying in touch with those who we know care about us. And I guess that's how we that's how we do it. That's how we're worshiping right now. It's a little different, but still important to do it. All right, flip over to the last part of your worksheet. So does anybody recognize this? Yeah, we see something very similar to these during church. So this is where people give their offerings during the church service. Also during Sunday school, if you guys come to Sunday school, I have like a little green basket that's very similar to this, and we pass it around and we put our offering in there. So this is where we put the money offering. So the early believers shared everything that they had to make sure everyone had what they needed. How amazing is that? So there are people in our world today who need things they don't have. There are people in our world today, so some people don't have enough clothes to keep warm. Some don't have enough food to eat. Some don't have anywhere to live. Some don't have any money at all to do any of those things. And our church family helps those who need those things. Wow. We're so grateful for our church family for that reason right there. So why do you think we need those things? Why are those things that we need? Yeah, so we need shelter to keep us warm or to keep us from getting too hot, right? We need food to keep our bellies full and to grow. We need money so that we can buy any and all of those things. And we need, I'm forgetting the last one. What was the last one? Anyways, so today we're going to fill our basket with things our church family can share with others. So not just money, but things that we can share with others that will help others and help them get the things that they need. So how can you help others in need? How can our church family help others in need? So right now I want you to draw and fill up this basket with things that our church family can give to others, things that they need. Okay, so I'll give you guys one example, and then you guys can pause your video and you guys can fill up that basket with lots of wonderful things that people need. So my one example that I drew in here is an apple. That's representing food, or specifically food for food packs. So something that our church does is we help fill food packs for Helena Food Share, and they give out these little food packs, or they call them kid packs, kid packs. They give these out to families who don't have enough food for all of their family during the long weekends at home. Okay, so this food goes to kids that need more food, that don't get the food at home. So our church will do things like fruit cups, we'll do things like cereal boxes, juice boxes, that type of stuff. So those are all types, and the apple just represents that. So I want you guys to think of things that our church family gives to the needy. Okay? Alrighty. So pause the video now and do that. Alrighty. So Jesus calls believers to help each other, and we really do try to do that, I think. So that's what Jesus wants. He wants us to help each other and to make sure that everybody is taken care of and has all of the things that they need. So today we're going to pray together, okay? And we're going to say a popcorn prayer. So this popcorn prayer is a prayer which anyone can pop up and say something. So take a moment to think about what you're especially thankful for. What are you thankful for most? Okay? And I'll start the prayer by saying, thanks God for Jesus. Thanks for... And when I stop, I want anyone who wants to say thanks to God for something, that's when you're going to say it. Okay? And if we were together, I bet you guys would all have such wonderful ideas. But you'll have to do it from home right now. And that's just how it is. Alrighty. So repeat after me. Put your hands together in your favorite way to pray. Thanks God for Jesus. Thanks for I think I'll say wind, because the wind is blowing up right now. Help us to serve you every day. We love you. Amen. Alrighty, friends. Thank you so much for joining me for KidTime, and I will see you next week. Bye.